Do not adjust your TV sets. It's still gone.
That's just because we've got.
Cracking it open. Yes, do not adjust your sets. Chris is not back yet from his worldwide tour. I believe he's not going on a glutes tour. So thank you to Short Print Today, Jake, for filling in last week. Very well received. And this week we have another special treat for you. Look at that pour. So Phil's not just talented with cards, but he can pour a drink. This is Philmington, everybody. If you don't know, the man, the myth, the legend. And Phil, who has his own channel, of course, and I also get to work with him on Spitballing Cards. But I think you've joined the show once before, right?
Yeah, it was about a year ago. We talked about Bowman Draft.
Bowman Draft, yeah. We'll have you on again for the Bowman Draft special. But there's a lot of other products that are pretty important that are here to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh. Merrimack Valley, does that sound familiar, Phil?
Yeah. It's a reference to sort of like northern central Massachusetts and like southern New Hampshire region. So yeah, that's where I grew up. I had the Merrimack Valley accent, which is like a hybrid between a neutral and a Boston accent. And then I kicked it in college.
You ever slip back into it?
Not really.
Yeah. I know sometimes if I go, or when I go home, if I'm home for a week or two back in Wisconsin, I'll come back with a little bit of the Wisconsin accent. Yeah. So anyways, MVP awards were announced today. And to the surprise of no one, we have two repeat winners, not back-to-back years for Judge, but it's his second time. And for Ohtani, it is back-to-back years. And I don't know. Did you get a chance to look at the votes yet, Phil?
No, we talked about this a little bit on Spitballing before about how there's a higher likelihood of unanimous MVPs because of the advent of sabermetric stats, particularly WAR and weighted OBA and WOBA or OPS plus, weighted RC plus. It's the offensive components of WAR. I think those are getting looked at. It's kind of like doing the voters' job in an easier way, and it's streamlining it, and it's keeping folks consistent. Where in the past, you had to be like, okay, so how much should I weigh RBI versus OPS versus stolen bases and defense? That's really hard. How much does the position matter? How much do errors matter? Fielding percentage at the time people were looking at because I don't know if we had outs above average at that point. We had UZR, but yeah, Judge unanimous and Ohtani unanimous. I'm not complaining. It's just interesting that halfway through the season, you had a lot of folks, including probably a lot of us on Spitball and myself, saying like, it's too hard for Ohtani to win the MVP as a DH. It's just not going to happen. He'd have to get to about an 8 WAR, which is really, really difficult to do. But Ohtani picked up the pace and he went 50-50. And I think the 50-50 sealed the deal on the unanimous MVP. Agreed. And with Judge, he deserved it. I like Bobby Witt a lot, but offense matters more than defense with MVPs. And he had Witt beat by a lot. He had Ohtani beat from an offensive standpoint too. So
yeah, I've got the vote totals up here, Phil. It's interesting. So Ohtani was unanimous with the 30. Lindor really on the strength of his last 6 weeks or so. He really kind of put himself in the driver's seat there. It's nice for me to see Contreras getting some love. Ended up placing 5th. About halfway through the season, a couple of us on Spitball, and I know me, for one, was looking at a possible Harper MVP, especially when Betts went down. We thought, well, maybe Harper is gonna get his chance, but he had a pretty prolonged slump there for a while.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat's talking about the AL, and I guess so. Soto beat out Gunnar by quite a bit. Is sort of what I think that implies. Okay, 229 to 208. Yeah, maybe it could have been a little bit closer if you look at the number of third place votes, 21 to 6. That surprises me a little. especially given the Yankees had somebody else who was more meaningful to their team this year, right? So you start to look at cannibalization. It didn't really impact Soto. I think in the past we've seen like Rafael Devers being negatively impacted, having Mookie Betts on the team. The year that Freddie Freeman won it in 2021, right? There were some other players in the Braves that probably got negatively impacted. But Witt, yeah, to somebody's point, Witt unanimous second place.
Yeah,
don't
I
think we've
was
ever
reading a
seen
stat, Phil,
that
that Witt had, I believe, the 65th best statistical season ever in the 124 years of Major League Baseball. Could that be true? It was a really high performing offensive season, but I believe Judge's was like a top 12 season all time. Let me see if I
Yeah.
can find that.
Yeah, Witt had a great all-around season. He just fell short with the power output. In the stolen bases, he stopped being as aggressive in the second half, and he was getting caught a little bit, even though he's probably one of the fastest guys in baseball. Yeah, Freddie Freeman was 2020. That's right. Los Bravos. Jose Ramirez, outside looking in, fifth. That makes sense. I think the top five makes sense to me.
How many top fives is that for Ramirez? It's got to be like 5 or 6, right?
And yeah, and that's meaningful because you look at a guy like Rafael Devers who has 0 top fives. We've talked about a few other players who have 0 top fives on our show. It can be hard. It can be hard to get in there, to crack into that.
Yeah, and we also talk about top 10, so it's nice to see some of these names pop up there. Vlad, after his putrid start, really did well for himself in the second half and kind of pulled in there. Jordan in there a little bit. A couple down ballot votes for Devers. Framber Valdez with the 1 vote. Seth Lugo getting an MVP vote. That's interesting.
That is very interesting. You gotta too bad we couldn't interview the voter.
It had to be somebody from Kansas City, right? Is that where he's pitching?
Yeah,
Lugo still. So down ballot in the NL. Skeens got a vote. Teoscar, Tovar. Oh, Cheerio in there. That's 3 Brewers getting votes.
No Jackson Merrill. So, which leads to the question, and this happened with the Rookie of the Year as well, where there's not saying that popularity definitely played a factor, but there's definitely some controversy there. So you wonder, Juan Soto over Gunnar, Paul Skeens getting a vote for third in MVP. With the way that these are allocated, do you think popularity went into it at all?
I don't know. That's a good question. Like you were talking about that difference, that Soto Henderson difference, that 21-6. That's pretty shocking to me that it was that there was that big of a gap. And I think Soto did have an amazing year, but I'm just a little surprised that difference was that high.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the OPS, the weighted OBA, the WRC plus. So the offensive component of WAR, sure, Gunnar probably had him beat on both sites, Fangraphs and Baseball Reference in WAR. But Juan Soto was just a better offensive player, and that's what matters most. Plus, he was fairly consistent throughout the entire year. Even though Judge was the most impactful player on the team, without Soto, they're probably like the third place in the division.
Yeah, they're not stiff in the playoffs without Soto. So yeah, that's interesting. SFO Sox fans pointing out that Betts finished ahead of Freeman, and early in the year, I thought Betts was in the driver's seat for the MVP until he got hurt, and that would have been interesting to see if he had kept up that pace throughout the entire year, how that would have impacted Ohtani. Statistically for one, but also for the NL results. Yeah, there's Mookie.
Yeah, he looked like he was going to have it if he stayed healthy, and he probably had it if he stayed healthy, or neck and neck with Ohtani, probably at worst. The power was already starting to slow down before he took that kind of fluke pitch off the wrist, broke his wrist.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, that would have been interesting for sure. What would Mookie Betts' total numbers be like And then next year will be interesting again. See them both on the same team. Maybe Freddie Freeman has a comeback year as well.
Yep. Corey's pointing out, loves Cal Raleigh, got 12 points in voting. Not a star, not a card investment, but he's very good and underrated. Yeah, I love seeing catchers get votes. Statistically, catchers have a little bit of a tough time keeping up with everybody else offensively. So in a lot of these recent voting totals, they don't finish too high. So it is nice to see some catcher love.
Yeah. Couple years ago when Goldschmidt won it, the point about cannibalization, I thought Machado was going to finish third and Arenado second, or at a bare minimum, they'd be really, really close. But Machado had him beat by quite a bit, I think, Arenado. And what was that, 2022?
22, yeah.
And that kind of goes into the vote splitting with Goldschmidt and Arenado. There might have been a little bit there where voters are trying to circle the best players and the best teams. And sometimes they don't always make it to the second best player on the best teams.
Yeah, which makes it a little bit even more surprising that Soto was able to finish so high.
Yeah, winning the division, maybe that made the difference.
That's a good point. Yeah. I know there was some talk today about Manfred maybe even changing some of the criteria because so many teams make the playoffs now to have the MVP vote after the postseason. But yeah, even finishing the regular season strong and winning the division definitely could have played a role in some voters' eyes. Phil, if they did that, just as a thought exercise, how much would the postseason have affected Judge's MVP candidacy? Would he still have been unanimous?
I don't know.
Soto had a pretty incredible postseason.
Yeah, you're already at an unfair advantage if you're on a bad team that doesn't make the playoffs. And then to be on a good team that makes it, and then to have some, positive moments in your favor, like from Mookie Betts' standpoint, Freeman's standpoint, and have that push you ahead of guys, that would be interesting. I think Judge still wins it. Is he still unanimous? Maybe because Witt wasn't that great in the last couple playoff games I saw with him in them.
Yeah, you're right. Those top two guys didn't really do much to separate themselves.
Yeah, at least Judge had that one home run.
He had that huge home run that we thought would be huge, and then kind of got erased, right? And then he had another home run in the World Series.
Oh, 2 home runs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's some talk in the chat. SFO Soxman. There are postseason awards. Yeah, and those go by series, but I don't know. Baseball's is unique in that they don't really provide any criteria for the MVP. They let the voters decide what's most important to them. So some voters will not vote for somebody on a losing team. Some want them to perform well in high leverage situations. So yeah, it would be interesting to see what they would do, how some people would vote. Agree. Battery says voting the MVP prior to postseason made more sense when only the league champions advanced to the World Series and only 2 postseason teams. And then even after that, in divisional play for the next, 25-ish years, there were just 4 teams making the playoffs. Now you got a lot of teams making the playoffs. So we'll see. Yeah, Doc, hopefully our friend Jake is not watching to be reminded of the drop ball. But yeah, that's a big moment, big postseason moment. MVP buybacks now are official. They've kind of been discussed for several months as to who they would be. There was not a lot of people speculating on other people. There wasn't much value in that. Maybe for Witt early August, maybe, but after that, not much. So they Topps wasted no time coming out with a commercial today. I'm not sure if you saw it, Phil, with Big Poppy and the Big Hurt. And Poppy finds some chrome. He's digging for chrome and finds the MVP buybacks and brings them to the Big Hurt's trading post for some store credit. What do you think about the buyback program in general? And Is it getting traction? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's changed the game a little bit for regular Topps Chrome, which was and still is pretty brutal to rip at prices above 175 a box.
Right.
So you're getting more value out of the boxes, but then again, you're increasing the value of the boxes up until the buyback promotion expires, which will be like February or March of next year. But I like the idea. It's helping hobby shops move the product. It's creating somewhat of a partnership with the hobby shops. You're incentivizing customers to come back to pay really high prices for the hobby shop's wax. That's what it ends up being. So for somebody like me, I did have 36 or so logo fractor boxes times 5 base packs. So I ripped all the packs with my daughter. Wasn't a big fan because there's no shiny cards in them, right? It's all the base cards. We pulled like, I think 3 Ohtani, 4 Judge. So I guess I'll bring those into my hobby shop. This is the first time I'm doing this, by the way. So if there's a way that I can do it online, that's better. With like Blowout, I don't know, Blowout's still participating. I think DA Card World might have been last year. But yeah, it's a way for folks to spend more money and to walk into their hobby shop that they might not go into too often, and it gives you a floor for the opening experience. Now, I think each year, and this is the case with Logo Fractor, there's a risk of checklist sizes increasing. So it makes that ultimate prize, the EV from the box, a little bit lesser, and which isn't that great. I think with Logo Fractor this year, they just about doubled the checklist, I think. So they made it pretty tough.
And the value on the base still remains, is it $20 per base?
I think it is still 20.
Yeah, I wonder if they might consider moving that. I remember the video from last year of somebody wheelbarrowing a whole pile of these cards into his hobby shop. It definitely keeps Topps in the news, baseball in the news, baseball cards following the season. So I think that's good. And they're leaning into it with this commercial. Like SFO Sox fan says, yeah, we got some other Hall of Famers in there. I enjoyed the commercial. I thought that was a good job by Topps. This question came up either last week or the week before on Blab and Phil, and somebody was asking about the more rare parallels of these guys. How many of those you think get turned in, thereby reducing the amount that are actually out there? And will that have an impact? So are people turning in golds that then are no longer in the market? If there's 50 gold Ohtanis, and let's say 30 of them get turned in, does that make the gold more rare, or it's obviously more scarce, but is it more sought after since there aren't as many?
Yeah, I think so. Now, usually good players
win with the base card.
Yeah, usually good players win MVP, but it's not always GOATs that win MVPs each year, right?
Right.
Maybe Ohtani wins it again next year, but you have to think about 5th, 6th, 7th year cards of players, and will they hold value and withstand the test of time in 20 years? Maybe Ohtani will. Hey, maybe Aaron Judge will too. For a lot of the guys, this is just a drop in the ocean. This won't significantly impact their values, but for that specific product, for right now, you and Chris are going after some probably black parallels, short prints from the early 2000s, mid 2000s, etc. For folks that are doing that sort of thing with Ohtani in the future, how many folks will be doing that, given that there's a Cosmic that's not in short supply that has parallels, and there are other Topps Chrome sets that weren't part of this buyback program? I think it'll be interesting to see what happens, to see if there's any sort of increase in value from the rarity. And this is all assuming that Topps is destroying these cards, which I think they are. They better be.
Right. We don't know, right? We don't know what their policy is. Some they're stamping. Chris was saying, was it have we seen any Ohtani autographs from last year that they've been supposed to put in packs? Because some of the buybacks are supposed to be stamped and signed and put in packs, right? And I think Chris said he either saw Acuna and didn't see Ohtani, or vice versa. So I don't even know if they're keeping up with that original plan of putting autograph versions of some of these in next year's packs and the following year's packs.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
Oh boy, Matt McNeil's throwing this out. Okay, Topps now getting into the merch game.
Oh my god.
Topps now Ohtani t-shirt on Fanatics, only available for 24 hours. Okay, into the merch. I did see that they have of course the MVP Judge and Ohtani card, and they're going to have that signed. So that's going to be a chase to get that dual signature, which we've talked about many times on Spitball and about how they are going for that lottery ticket approach and making a lot of money doing it. But wow, going with some clothing items. Interesting.
It's been a busy week for Topps. It seems every year that 75% of Topps, their good baseball releases, come out in about a 4 or 5 month window, and that starts in late October, perhaps. So this week alone, and it's interesting because I check out blowout forums just to gauge sentiment. What are people saying about this product? What are people, caught up on print run pack odds wise that I haven't been able to research? And they've fallen behind. They don't have specific threads right now for some products that are releasing soon. Pre-sale today was Bowman's Best. There's no thread on that. Bowman Chrome Sapphire. There was a pre-sale window yesterday that lasted about 3 minutes. There's no separate thread on that. I think folks are adding in their comments on the regular Bowman Chrome thread to that. And then this week also, we've got Gilded tomorrow. Topps Chrome Sapphire update was, as we know, you got one today, Jeff, was available for Montgomery members, and there might be a public sale tomorrow. And then Topps Chrome update is exploding, even though it was released, was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
It's been on kind of a roller coaster ride. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing we definitely wanted to talk to you about since you've got your finger on the pulse, and Topps is leaning into it. This MLB debut patch madness, and with the combination of the Skeens bounty especially, and some of the other bounties and some of the big cards that have been pulled. I think the biggest ones have been Ellie and Pete Crow Armstrong, and PSA just graded those. So Topps was sharing a message on Instagram that both of them gem mint 10 and 10 autos. So they're definitely joining the bandwagon about promoting these debut patches. What's the current status of Chrome update? Where are we sitting monetary wise?
Regular hobby boxes last time I checked were somewhere around like 300, maybe 280 to 300 on eBay. Maybe even a few higher than that. A lot of people are lazy and don't check blowout cards because blowouts had them, I think, for a few days at $300. So if there's comps above that, you could have got them through blowout with free shipping and no tax. Jumbos, everybody's getting slaughtered that's opening those. Everybody is getting slaughtered that's opening megas. I meant to, before this episode, look up the odds to pull a debut patch from a mega. I'm pretty sure even if you're getting megas at $50 through Target, and if you compute the dollar per card, there's 7 packs in those megas, 4 cards each. So a little bit under $2 a card. I bet the value is still in buying an overpriced jumbo to get that debut patch. And same thing with the overpriced hobby at this point. It's been crazy. I didn't see this coming. I FOMO'd into, I bought 2 cases, so 12 total boxes on release day, just because I was tracking DealerNet and I was seeing like these are really trending. I could be wrong about this product. Maybe this isn't going to jump back down to below 200. Kicking myself a little bit now for not buying more, but also considering selling more and buying some back later, because I think a product like Bowman Draft, nobody's thinking about it right now. Nobody's talking about it. Checklist is blah, whatever. But that is one that can steal a lot of attention from other products, including Topps Chrome Update. So it's interesting.
The price on those is crazy, right? The early price on Bowman Draft is really high.
Yeah, crazy, but relative to Topps Chrome Update, maybe not so bad. If you're able to get some in like the mid 500s. Topps Chrome Update last year was so much cheaper. It never really got over $150 per hobby box. I know the checklist wasn't great. I know you had a 1/3 of a chance of pulling a debut patch versus this year. They just about tripled the number. So Stryker said you would have to spend 2.1 million to hit a debut. Yeah, exactly. But it's kind of cool. Some flashbacks to like 2020, 2021. I'm paying attention to the target restocks on those megas just for the purpose of reselling those. I would not open at $50 per mega. I would not. And if there's any sense of a rational marketplace and buyers and sellers, $100 for a mega, it shouldn't stay at that price for too long. I think it'll come down closer to like 75 or 80. At that point, it's probably not worth buying and flipping for that amount of money when you factor in, the fees and shipping and everything.
Yeah, and then the big question is what happens if and when the skeins gets pulled? Is that really going to pull the rug out from under the product, or are people still going to be chasing the other stuff?
Yeah, and the skeins will be a bigger deal if that gets pulled because of the bounty. The bounty, we covered this on, or the Spitballing show, but the bounty is priced at, not the Pirates one, but the other one is priced at double the Super Fractor auto sale for Paul Skeens, the highest one of the two. And I don't see Ellie De La Cruz getting a $600K bounty on his, or I know that's already been pulled. But so the Paul Skeens will be a bigger deal because that bounty will be off the table. And then it'll be the three Jacksons, Wyatt Langford, Jason Dominguez. So there's still some solid players. Junior Caminero. And then Colt Keith was pulled, Parker Meadows, and Heston Kjerstad. So some of those like tier 2 players have been pulled, but a lot of the tier 1s are still there. Everybody except Ellie.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think part of what's causing the crazy price rises and that intermediate bump in those megas is that there are a lot of people that aren't even really in baseball cards. They might be in sports cards, in football or basketball, or not even at all, but they heard about the Skeens bounty and were interested. I got a lot of questions from people saying, what product can I get this in? I don't know if you did as well, Phil, but there was some interest there. So I feel like in that case, when the Skeens gets pulled, those type of people probably not be buyers anymore or not be as interested. But you're right. There are some good names still there.
Yeah, a lot of ignorant buyers for sure, which is when you know that it's not smart to open it. It's not smart to buy at current prices. And it might be a good idea to flip to those people that are trying to, FOMO into a pipe dream.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a couple people talking in the comments about other products. And this goes back to what Phil's saying. There's such a glut of Topps products that have come out and that are still coming out that there's just most people who have a limited amount that they can spend are having to decide what they want to open. So yeah, I think compared to last year, and I know last year Stadium Club came out later. I think it was like January-ish. So it was a little bit more of a dead period. So there seemed to be a lot more getting open then, but now it's just it's a glut of product, and that's not slowing down, right, Phil?
No, I mean 2 Sapphire products back-to-back days, basically.
Yeah.
Both really strong products. And you have people that are selling those products to me because they think that Topps Chrome Gilded is going to be even better than that, which I think the EQL window for that's tomorrow. Anybody interested in that? I think that's $580 for Gilded. And last year's product is probably about $700 right now. So yeah, it's probably worth more than $580. But
does that come in a 32 count box like Sapphire does, or
it's
what?
Just a few. It's like a pouch of just a few cards. It might be like 3 or 4 cards. You get like a couple autographs and a numbered card and something else. It kind of works like that. One of them is gold plated. That's the way it worked, I think, a couple of years ago. I don't know if they've changed it at all.
It's almost like a Breaker's Delight effect, where there's fewer cards and they're just all hits.
Okay, yeah, 2 autos, as Jeremy Black saying. Yeah, I'm interested if anybody's going for that. I'm not decided. Oh, 5 cards, 2 guaranteed autos. Okay, so small checklist, nice looking cards, but as Chris would say, do we really need this set?
And will it catch on? Will it? Some people are saying it's going to take the place of Sapphire. Will it? Maybe. I don't know. They're pricing it as such. To Ryan's question, I think updates Sapphire was like 379. Is that what I told you? So with tax, it was over $400.
And do they usually repeat the price for the public sale?
Yeah.
I think they usually do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that product, and I was bugging Jeff about it last night and maybe this morning. I'm not a Montgomery Club member, and I've been buying that product left and right on the secondary market. And the fact that there's no data, no sales, really, it benefits somebody like me who's willing to take the risk. People that are getting these things, they're just trying to pay off their Montgomery membership, get some money to pay for Christmas gifts, stuff like that. They're okay with just making $100 on it. So $500, 505 has been my average price for that product. And you wonder, like, Phil, why are you spending that much? Topps Chrome Update Sapphire has never gone for that much. Well, it's format dependent, right? And
Correct.
last year they made some changes with Chrome Update Sapphire by putting an auto in each box, and they continue doing that this year. We all know that the checklist is better this year. I've also heard from somebody that the checklist size, of course, is smaller than regular Topps Chrome Sapphire, which is the issue with Topps Chrome Sapphire regular, because you're dealing with 650 to 700 cards. It's hard to pull the right guys.
You can't pull anything out of a 32 card box.
Yeah. This year, also, regular Topps Chrome Sapphire, there were no base cards of the Jacksons or Wyatt Langford or Paul Skeens. They did have autographs.
Sapphire.
Yeah, they did have autographs of the Jacksons and Wyatt, but no Paul Skeens anything. So you're getting Paul Skeens, you're getting the first and only base Topps Chrome Sapphire rookies of the Jacksons and Wyatt Langford. You're getting a base checklist that was cut in half, and they're not going to compensate by jacking up the print runs because it's one auto per box, and I believe those are all numbered. I also heard that the autographs this year aren't going to be sticker autos, which is an unexpected benefit to me. I would still pay $505 with sticker autos per box. So where could the product end up? I'm not here to pump the product, but I think it's vastly undervalued at $500, just my opinion. And then we've got the public sale happening tomorrow. So that pauses people knowing that they still have an opportunity to get the product for cheaper than $500. So why pay that? Why pay $500 now? That seems silly. But as a seller, might as well take the money, because you don't know how many are going to be available in that public sale. You don't know how long it's going to last. Could be 1 minute. It could be 10 minutes. Could be an hour. But I mean, maybe I'll try. I just don't have high hopes. Bowman Chrome Sapphire is I would say, inferior product, but still really good at that price of $280. The first time Bowman Chrome Sapphire has a guaranteed autograph is this year. You might say, well, Bowman Chrome sucked for the prospects. They weren't as good. At least you're getting like 30 or 35 of the top, 100 names. You're getting like the cream of the crop from the Bowman Chrome list. You're getting image variations, which tend to hold some value for the rookies, even if you're not getting rookie autographs. Jacksons are in there. Skeens is in there. And one autograph on card per box. Again, like Bowman Chrome Sapphire doesn't really have a whole lot of autographs in it. Last year, they started to introduce them, maybe the year before, but they certainly weren't one per box. Last year's Bowman Chrome Sapphire worst checklist is selling for $230 to $250 right now. So $280 slam dunk buy, but I mean, you had to be like hardwired into your router, and you had to check it out within 45 seconds.
It was less than a minute. I got stuck less than a minute, and I was out. So that was fast. It probably will be tomorrow. A couple things I wanted to get to, Phil. So I believe both Bowman Chrome Sapphire, it's update, right? Or it's Bowman Chrome Sapphire.
Just
and then Topps Chrome Sapphire update. I believe they have the 3 parallels per box as well, right? The one guaranteed auto and 3 guaranteed parallels, which is nice, especially if the checklist is small.
Yeah. So with Bowman Chrome Sapphire, to understand like what is this worth, and now we kind of know what it's worth because there's been a lot of eBay sales. It's worth about double what they priced it at. And Blowout Cards posted a sort of like a bounty. If people have cases of Bowman Chrome Sapphire, we'll buy them at $4,500. 10 boxes per case, so $450 is their valuation. They're putting that out there, and there's a lot of suspicion that, hey, Topps must have backdoored all those cases to Blowout, because they advertised that they'd have cases available, but they never did.
That's what caught me, Phil, because that's what I tried to buy. I tried to refresh because I was waiting for the case option to come up. They were saying cases for two $7.99, I believe.
Yeah. So you wonder. I don't think they backdoored them all the blowout, or else I would have made it the same post saying that I was thinking about doing the same and going above blowouts offer because I knew they were worth closer to 550. But I was afraid of Topps playing games behind the scenes, which is probably what they ended up doing, right? They probably understood or they knew going in that they were coming in at a price that was too low. And if they didn't know that, then they found out shortly after for blowouts post. And now they're going to get closer to market value for those boxes, in my opinion.
I think so. And they've, as somebody in the comments said just a couple years ago, these were much, much cheaper. They're already bumping the prices up a lot, but as Phil says, the market's showing it can handle it. So Fanatics wants a piece of that. They don't want somebody to flip it the day after for twice as much.
Right.
Phil, I've got a question. I think it was Mookie. Oh, yeah. With all that's going on, how do you think CT scanning is going to affect these? We talked a little bit about not affecting the regular Topps Chrome update very much just because of the sheer volume of those boxes. It's going to be hard for somebody to justify scanning all those boxes to find MLB debut patches. But in a smaller print run and a smaller product, like either like Bowman Chrome Sapphire or Topps Chrome Update Sapphire, what do you think?
That's a good question. You know, if I look at like Topps Chrome Update first, I would say that that's not really at risk right now because it hasn't been out for long enough. And cost per card, I mean, $2 per card is kind of a lot this day and age. Depending on like the collectors you talk to, a lot of collectors have given up on the hobby or given up on buying wax and opening it because of the cost of wax for products like that. I just don't know if the cost benefit proposition is justified. And I don't even know if there's enough suppliers to be able to handle that capacity. If everybody wanted to see if their Topps Chrome Jumbo had a MLB debut patch in it. So most products I think are unaffected. And some of this could also have to do with like the lack of awareness out there of this capability and people just being naive. That could be part of it too. Ty was talking about Mercury boxes and how they're still selling for what they came out at basically. And they're known to be CT scannable. Somebody did it.
Right.
I don't know if that's for just the loose boxes or the case version. I don't think they differentiated. But like products like this, 18 Series 2, I just picked up some. It's been around for a while. It's still like $1.50 per card. Like, are people really going to go through that effort to see if there's a Ohtani parallel in there? And it might be hard. There's 360 cards. But yeah, for like Sapphire and stuff like that, I think at some point there'll be a risk. And hopefully by that point, Fanatics will be working on some sort of solution. But and that's one of the reasons why I'm buying more through Topps. Reluctantly, I'm buying more through Topps because it's not for my peace of mind; it's for my customers' peace of mind. Because I'm going to disclose this is where I got them, and
Phil, we talk a little bit about that because some people watching might not know what you mean by customers. So just tell us a little bit about what your product is.
Yeah. So it's a subscription box. So if you guys know Original Boombox, it's similar. Everybody gets a standard lineup of packs each month. I've got Original Baseball, High-End Baseball. I try to keep it. And a few people here are actually customers. I think I saw a customer guy from Florida. I forget his name. But anyways, yeah, rcexplosionbox.com. Go to the website for more information. And I've got a football version too, but I only make 6 per month. I just don't understand the market. So I was never willing to get into the wax and have a huge inventory of football. I figured I would just buy the wrong time, the wrong sets from the wrong places. But yeah, I've been doing it for almost 6 years now for baseball.
So it's all different packs or packs from all different potential rookie classes that you highlight the potential pulls every month as well, right?
Yeah. So I try to, like, if there's some news or some buzzy players, somebody's having a standout year, I try to focus it around some of those players as well as other meaningful years. So a lot of variety from month to month, and within the month you'll get, between 7 to 10 packs in the original box usually. And it could span across 5, 6, 7 different years. Some Bowman, some Topps Chrome, some Topps Flagship. Stadium Club finest here and there. So
yeah, as you know, I like sealed product, and I have my sealed RC Explosion box.
yeah, so to make this a little bit less about a shameless plug.
Before you do that, SFO Socksman, that's a suggestion. Needed a short print box of opening day and Stadium Club packs. I think you'd find a lot of fans that watch Blabbin would be all about those boxes.
Yeah, it's funny. I issued a survey like 3 years ago to customers, former customers, prospective customers, because a lot of the times there were lines, people couldn't get one, and they were still very interested in the product. And I asked for feedback, and I asked targeted questions, and I had some qualitative feedback towards the end, like what else can I improve about the product? And you had some people, not all, but some people were like, "Oh, make it like Bowman only, or make it tops only." Right?
Oh,
So you can't
sure.
make everybody happy.
Right.
And if I did make 2 different boxes, I'd probably have to do a prospect box and then a rookie card box. But it seems like it's worked well enough. And it's not like you can't get today's rookies in a lot of old Bowman Draft. It's a lot of the same players, just some of them haven't debuted yet, or some haven't made the cut. And you can still get rookie cards in Bowman Chrome and in Bowman. So it's been going okay. Yeah, Bowman's Best. That's an interesting one. I actually bought a few of that product today. I don't feel great about it, but I just felt like I just need like 6 boxes of it. $300. It's an okay price. It's not a great price. And we don't know the pack odds yet. So with Bowman's Best, it probably still is available on tops.com. They changed the format, Jeff, just like what they did with the Finest. So instead of having the 2 mini boxes, you're getting 12 packs with 5 cards each, and they're just laid out. So I don't know what else that affects. I don't know if they're going to do like 3 different tiers of rookies, like what they did with Topps Finest. Interesting.
I like the mini boxes. I thought that was a cool feature of it. When I first got back in, it was like 2017, late 2017. That was one of the first products that I liked opening, Bowman's Best, because especially for somebody who is not really familiar with the hobby, it has a lot of big names, which is cool, and a lot of fun designs. And it was fun for me as a way to get back in. And I don't know, it hasn't really, I don't know. It kind of does it. I thought it would catch on a little bit more, and then once they decided to get rid of the atomics, I think that also kind of played a role in them not being as popular. But yeah, I'll be interested to see how the checklist looks this year. Ryan Cornick can report it's finally sold out.
What's going on, Rage? How are you doing? And yeah, sometimes 2011 goes into the boxes, and I've got Bowman Draft behind here, Bowman Baseball. I'm still waiting on Harper to do something in the regular season. He's been close, but Bowman Baseball is waiting for that moment. 2011 Series 1 hobby with Freddie Freeman, featured that a few months ago. Maybe I'll be able to feature 11 update soon enough with Trout tanking along with that wax. So,
is the wax coming down the way his cards are?
Yeah, so right now I'm sitting on a box of, talking about CT scanning risk. I'm sitting on a box of 09 Bowman Draft hobby box, and those have come down quite a bit. Probably not from the scanning, probably more from Trout's performance. Those hobby boxes probably peaked at like 7,500, 8,000 at least. Now, and that's only 1 auto per box. Checklist size for autos, it's like 55 or so. Now I'm wondering what I should do with that hobby box. Not scan it, obviously, but do I hold on to it? Do I sell it? I don't know.
Well, this gets back to what your original point was before I got you off topic in terms of sourcing your cards and buying more directly from Topps. Just because then it has a clearer path to you, so your customers can have a little greater faith in the products not being scanned.
Exactly. Yeah. This is another one I'm worried about. 98 Donruss. You wouldn't know much about this one, but it has the Crusade parallels in it. And this is another one that this would be a higher CT scanning risk, but there's been some auctions of this product for under $200. To me, it's worth like at least 350, 400. So I would say that it's worth to scan that if you have the capability. But so that's another one I'm worried about holding for like a year because of the risk and the possible lost faith in that product sealed, and that could cause softening for sure.
Yeah. Do you think has it been a point that some of your customers have brought up to you, or are you just trying to be proactive about it?
Proactive.
Yeah,
I was
wasn't-
actually really surprised. I think the news broke. A lot of this news broke in like late August, and I lost more customers in early August, which is cyclical because of summertime, people going away, focusing on other things, spending more time outside. Happens every year. That fall off happened. The August or the September fall off, which would have been more from that, didn't really happen. I think a couple customers could have possibly dropped for that reason, but they didn't articulate why. You don't have to explain why you're dropping a subscription. A lot of guys sometimes do, though. Some financial hardship, stuff like that, which it's great to understand. But I don't know if other breakers are taking it to the same extreme as me. I've got a place on my website where I don't have disclosures for all the products, but for the key products, I try to within baseball. If something was acquired loose, if it was acquired loose and not from a sealed case and not from Topps or Fanatics, then when did I acquire it? And because it's multiple boxes I'm using, I have to talk in percentages. 75% I acquired as part of a sealed case over a year ago from DA Card World. Like that might be how far I take it. And DA Card World is buying not all their stuff from Topps and Fanatics. They're buying a lot of it back from customers.
Right.
So that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing, but just giving some assurances and a little bit extra transparency, I think goes a long way. I think breakers and whatever are just like praying that it doesn't get brought up. Oh, it's not a big deal. If we just don't talk about it, then it'll just go away. Maybe it does. And maybe at some point I can retire that section of the website if people really don't care at all. But it just seems like the right thing to do.
No, I'm sure that people appreciate that. What's up, Teapot? Teapot's joining us from his mountain retreat in Colorado, skiing the slopes, I'm sure. I forgot what I was going to ask you now. Something related.
And breakers, to be fair, breakers do buy a lot of their stuff directly from Topps if they have an allocation. So
yeah, and
it might be less of an issue. But then the risk is, are they doing anything with it after they get it from Topps?
Exactly.
So, but they've
right.
already built trust with their customer base. So like
yeah.
But
I remember when this whole thing first came up about the CT scanning, and people were saying that it could benefit the breakers because they could scan and then they could know which cards are in which products, so they could steer those cards toward their best customers or keep those best boxes for themselves. There's all sorts of theories on that, and I guess it's just the big unknown is how widespread it really is.
Yeah, the biggest risk to me is if you're dealing with a smaller breaker that's doing it as a part-time thing, their volumes aren't really super high. If those folks, I apologize if this situation relates to anybody that's watching, but do those folks also open a lot of wax themselves? It's sort of like a drug dealer getting high off his own supply, because there's a little bit of risk. For instance, 4 or 5 years ago, there was a guy that was trying to sell boxes of loose packs of Topps Update from his YouTube channel. But then he would say in the video, "Oh, I might just open these because I haven't pulled a Mookie yet." So then you're just wondering, are you gonna open them until you find a Mookie and sell the rest? Because that's not right.
That gets a little dicey. Absolutely.
There's people that own shops. I've heard this from folks. My show and me. Maybe I shouldn't be using his name, but his name is Don. He's on Twitter and Blowout Forums. He was set up with a guy that had come to the Shriners, which used to be the biggest regional show in New England. I don't know what they did with it. They stopped promoting it. Now it's not, probably might not be in the top 3 best shows in New England. But He was telling me a story about a guy who owns a shop that opens a case of like, say, Bowman Draft, and then he'll try to find the case hit. With Bowman, I don't think it's clear, but maybe it's like an orange or a red. And the idea is that each case would only have one orange or red auto, something like this. This isn't the exact situation, but this is what he was describing.
I get it. Yeah.
And then he would sell the rest of the boxes to his customers. And he would like grade the parallel, sell it on eBay or whatever. That's like common behavior. So like that type of case searching, sketchy behavior. Folks at hobby shops selling loose packs of Bowman Draft, they know the autos have been hit, and then you buy a pack, like the last 2 packs at regular cost, and he's pretending he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't sell loose packs because he's worried about this ethical dilemma too. But there's so much shadiness that you can engage in before actually cat scanning the box. You could weigh the boxes probably and find out which packs are loaded or which boxes have a higher potential for stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff that you can do, which would lead you to not buying single boxes of a product like Topps Dynasty on eBay because there was already too much risk in buying those.
Even before the CT scanning.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. A couple people in the comments. So Paul's asking about who has the money to do it. Ice Rain responded, some scanning software for around $200. AI software is being built to help. It's not the high-end scanner. And it worked for Pokemon. Yeah, that's interesting. And you know that the barrier to entry for the CT scanning is going to come down the better technology gets. That'd be crazy if it's effective at the $200 price point already. But yeah, I think it's something to worry about or consider, I guess I should say, going forward.
Maybe I need to start doing recordings of my inventory and snapshot at a certain time. Look, I bought this product before the cat scanning era officially blew up. Say it's like February 2025.
But then people say, well, you're just you're faking the date. You're going back in time. You didn't. That's not really you in February of 2025, Phil. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough.
Should be. You're right.
Yeah. I wanted to get to this comment real quick. If you guys haven't watched the latest Spitballin' video, we talked a little bit about the Shohei Ohtani autograph that was wiped and re-signed in kanji and is up for sale on Golden. Is that Golden? I believe right now.
It is.
And Teapot, one of our co-hosts, is very upset about it, and he brings the heat in that video, Phil.
Yeah, he does. It's funny. Right after we recorded that, I saw Jeff Wilson's video, and he was referring to the guy's Instagram, which is simply high-end cards, something like that.
Yeah.
And then we realized it's the same guy as the one that we had targeted in one of our other videos where we talked about the Wyatt Langford Bowman Chrome auto drama between the buyer and the seller. The buyer backs out, seller gets mad, blows him up, and everybody defends the buyer that backed out. Even though it was probably a great price, if you were to, fast forward 3-4 months, it would have been a fine price. So yeah, I kind of felt a little bit bad, and I'm the guy that has the final cut. I edit those videos, and I was talking to Scott about it, and he's like, "You ever think we would just like pull an episode?" I'm like, I don't know, probably not, but thought about cleaning up the language a little bit. Then I rewatched it, and I'm like, no, I gave the guy a benefit of the doubt. Nobody was too harsh on him.
I don't think so.
And I think we were all like, hey, if a buyer really wants to pay X for it and really desires that card and understands that it's a wipe signature, which it says in the listing, it's disclosed in plain English. Hopefully he reads that. He should.
Yeah.
You're worried about ensuing buyers. The buyer buying that. And
I wish I had brought that up more in the video, but in conversations with people since then, and even responding to the comments on our video, it does bother me because everybody says, well, it's going to be on there that it's altered. So what's the big deal? But what about the next buyer? Who's going to disclose that when they sell it on eBay? And if somebody's just new into the hobby and doesn't really know what to look for, and they just see that there's a really unique auto, they might pay more than they would if they knew the history about it. And I agree with what Phil had brought up a little bit in the video about kind of, I don't know if rewarding is the right word, but it almost seemed like when the guy first talked about this, it was a personal grail. I believe he called it a grail card, and that it took him years to get, as if it was something he really wanted to target for his collection as a great collecting item. And then less than a couple weeks later, it's already up on sale for golden. So that's kind of what rubbed me the wrong way. If you're going to do something unusual to a card for your own collection, by all means. But if it's just, it looks like it was just to sell and try to sell at a higher price than you could get for the regular version of it. That's
with me, it's a seller's story. It doesn't pass the sniff test. That's one of the big things. And as you're saying, the ultimate collectible. Who in their right mind would wipe an Ohtani autograph off a Bowman Chrome auto and wait 2 years or 3 years? Well, you would do it because you have connections with the athletes. You would do it because it's probably not as hard as you're saying to get this done. The variable is, are you getting which signature are you getting? Are you getting the kanji signature? And if that's the case, then you're doubling, tripling, quadrupling, 20xing the value of the card. If you're getting the original signature, then are you really going to tell people about it and what you did? Or are you just going to grade it as authentic? So you have to think about that. And what did the original signature look like? Was it streaky? I bet it was. I bet it was a banged up card.
Yeah. And then you think, well, this is it's disappointing because it leads you to think down those paths. And there's a lot of people, HEL Jeff Black's fine with it, John's fine with it, talking about being open about it, which I get, and I appreciate that that's how Golden is presenting it, but I just worry that it won't always be presented that way down the road. I agree with this. It still says top certified auto, which it's not, but that's what's on the card. That's what's on every pack pulled autograph card. So to the naked eye, to a regular person off the street who holds this card, it's going to look like top certified it. And I believe it comes with a letter of authenticity from maybe BGS for whatever that's worth right now. But it's nowhere, it's not sealed to the card. It's not with the card. So that doesn't, by the time the next sale goes, that could be long gone. Juan says, I don't understand why you wouldn't just get a double signed. And I believe Teapot brought that up, and some people in the comments of the video did as well. And that'd be great. Yeah, you have the signature in English, and then either above it, below it, put that on there.
But if he had gotten that done, what would you pay for the card? The same?
Same.
Yeah.
I don't think
less, maybe.
Yeah, maybe less.
This is altered, and it still has the regular auto on it, and nobody's paid an immense premium for a card with the English plus the kanji auto on it. There's no history of that, where there is of the kanji auto being on, whether it's Goodwin Champions, Topps Finest. There's a few other ones that have it.
Right.
I
don't think PSA would slab it, right? Wasn't that the issue, that PSA wouldn't slab it because the card's not altered, the signature is. So I don't think the signature would pass their altered test. Is that true?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I assume
because
there's been a lot of crazy comments to that video. Somebody saying that it wasn't meant to be put up for auction. It was just sent to Golden. Somebody else.
Like it was sent to Golden just to share with them?
I don't know.
ATL Jeff Black, I get it. Yeah, it's going to cost a lot of money. So you're kind of saying you shouldn't feel bad for somebody who's going to spend that much money and not do their research. I get that. I agree with Teapot on this one. It sets kind of a strange precedent.
Yeah, somebody brought up the argument of the honor involved in a kanji signature and reselling something like that, and how Ohtani would definitely not approve. But
that's what I don't get, Phil. I mean, he obviously had to have a connection with the person, and if you look at his page, he meets a lot of players and has a lot of connections. If you're a player, doesn't this kind of rub you the wrong way that you
Yeah.
sign something for him and immediately sells it like this? I don't know.
If we wanted to make it a more kind of negative video, I would have went into what is the honor amongst TTMers and people that collect autographs, because every athlete is only one person. So if you burn one bridge, does it really matter? There's still Wembanyama, Caitlin Clark. There's still a number of athletes to, I wouldn't say exploit, but make some money off of, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, true. Sports guy Corey's comparing it to a custom card, and it's true. I bought a custom card. Where's my first custom card? This Churio,
nice.
which has like the kind of a prism outside, and then it's got a Brewer patch, and I believe I can't remember which Bowman that image is from, but yeah, it's a custom card. So I guess, I mean, if you're selling it as a custom card, John's really a firm believer in this kind of a don't ask, don't tell, I guess, or as long as you tell that it's okay, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Basically saying that everybody has responsibility for their actions in this. It's disclosed.
Yeah.
There's nobody broke the law. Nobody's even saying that it's unaltered at this point. Right. So somebody made that comment. What is the argument that it's unaltered? Well, there is none. It was just the title that we chose.
Yes, do tell.
The title that we chose for the video, neither Jeff or I came up with it, but we might have approved it because it might, whatever. But it altered or fair game. There's a chance it's both altered and fair game. Yeah. And that's okay. That would be the argument for that.
What a lot of you guys are saying. So
yeah.
Altered and fair game. Ice Rain has a question for Teapot. If you're still here, what about sticker autos? What's your take if you remove a sticker auto to get an on-card auto on the card? I don't know. I've heard people talk about this. I've never actually seen it done. I'd be afraid of the damage to the card when you're doing that. So I don't know. Teapot, I have no issue with using a base card or refractor card to do custom art piece. It's fine, but a card of this magnitude and messing it up is odd. Yeah, and again, we've seen some pretty interesting choices for getting autographs on say SSP cards, and there has been a lot of debate with people in our audience because there's a lot of short print collectors and super short print collectors. You're altering a card, and maybe there's only 10 or 15 or 20 of those in existence. You're altering it by getting it autographed. Does that make it worth more, worth less? That's kind of in the eye of the beholder. But if you're doing it for yourself, great. If you're doing it for to sell, then I don't know. Then I guess depends how much you're really going to be comfortable sharing and how much you care what happens down the road to that card. Phil, it kind of reminds me of when we were talking about the CT scanning issue. And originally when it first came up in August, we were talking about, well, could I scan one of these boxes? Could I scan a Sapphire box, see that there's nothing good in it, and then sell it? And I could list what the contents are, and so somebody could still buy it for a discounted price. But what's going to stop that person from then selling it for whatever the market value is? So what responsibility does that first seller take for other people going down the road?
Yeah, that's a good point. Somebody also made the comment, I think it was Mango Bango. If you're in the hobby in 2018, you know that only one of his Bowman Chrome autos has the kanji signature, and it's a blue out of 150.
Yeah.
So kind of rats if tough luck if you didn't know. And not that he was insinuating that, but like, well, it should be kind of common knowledge already. If you're a high-end Ohtani collector, maybe that's where he's going.
Yeah. It's tough. It goes to how much personal responsibility you feel as a seller and how much personal responsibility you think someone has as a buyer. John is for better or worse, you're right. There's one less of that signed Ohtani card in the pop, well, or at least in the accessible print run, right?
Yeah, that card was probably already like altered or trimmed. So it wasn't going to be a PSA 10, or else this guy wouldn't have done it. Um, Again, this guy might be a really great person, but just logic would suggest that it wouldn't be a PSA 10. But yeah, it could have still been in the PSA or BGS grading reports and in the universe of raw, unaltered Ohtani autographs pitching. No, it wasn't a numbered auto, Robert.
No, it wasn't a numbered, but they're even his base have quite a premium.
That would be ballsy. If he did like a hitting pose gold, I'd have more respect for that, I think.
Phil, what about
This
this?
is it's a higher risk, because if people are truly considering that damaged goods, then you just lost a lot of money. Yeah, it was just a base pitching pose. What was that, Jeff?
My question, Phil, for you: what if you had a blue batting and did it? Because you know that one exists out there, right? That's what the one is. So if you have a blue batting auto, erase it and get it in kanji. Now that original one is not as unique. How do you tell the difference? Would you have
in that
more
case,
or less of a problem if somebody if it's common knowledge that the only version of this card that has the kanji auto is the blue 150 hitting
yeah,
image,
yeah,
and you have one
yeah.
of those and you get the same thing done?
Maybe this is what this guy is setting people up for, to try to do the same and to do it with the blue. With the blue, it's sort of like getting arrested and having tattoos. Maybe Rage knows a little bit about this. A serial numbered card. It's there's going to be a record, a paper trail of that on blowout forums, and I know that's one place that not a lot of people go to anymore.
No, but that's true, and I think that's what ATL Jeff Black's getting at here too. People know the number on the blue
Right.
that is the kanji auto.
Yeah.
But it just creates a lot of gray area.
Yeah, and the grading companies will know not to mess with that card. They probably already rejected this one, or at least Beckett probably did, is my guess. And they just wouldn't slab it. And good on them if that's the case with their 3 or 4 employees left.
Right. There's some credibility there. So John is saying logic means base cards that get autoed are all altered. Well, that's kind of what I was getting at before with PSA, because PSA does not consider an autograph an alteration. Therefore, I don't know what they would do about slabbing this, because this card is particularly altered in that it took the autograph off and they put a new one on. But they don't. PSA doesn't specifically have an altered autographed slab. They just have an altered slab, and usually, as far as I know, that's only referred to the cards.
But so there's been cases in the past where there probably is a little bit of precedent for somebody wiping and redrawing an auto and getting caught. Whether it's like the 01 Bowman Chrome rookie auto of Pujols.
The Pujols, yeah.
Or another card, and I think so. The Soto Topps Chrome update is an interesting one because the autograph was wiped, but not all. It wasn't redrawn. It was just wiped a little bit, so it wasn't coming off the card anymore. But that card was also trimmed.
Yeah,
and I think that's the main reason why it was deactivated. The trimmed part of it with the autograph situation itself, but that's different because it's just wiping off a little piece versus redrawing the entire thing. I think there probably is some precedent out there, and anybody in the comment section, let us know if this is the case. But there should be precedent out there for PSA refusing to grade cards, deeming them altered, if there's proof that the autograph is redrawn, not English to kanji, not English to Swahili or hieroglyphics, English to English.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a great point. And with all of the Kurtz card care things that have come up, that issue has come up quite a bit because, like you mentioned with the Soto, there's a lot of players who have big autographs. Acuna is one where the autographs go flying off the card, and that usually detracts from the value. And especially companies that grade autographs, that'll take down the grade. So what happens if you just wipe it a little bit so it doesn't look like he signed quite that far off the card? Yeah, that's definitely altering whether a company catches it or not. like you said, Phil, if they have proof of something being re-signed or changed in some way, like there's a picture that shows it raw and it shows the autograph going off the card, and then the same serial number is slabbed and you see it cut short, well, then would PSA say, hey, we're going to desert that?
Yeah, Beckett actually did encase one of the pools that was wiped, I think. And they gave it the authentic, like, in-person auto grade, like the BAS 10 or whatever. They didn't grade the card or something. So I wonder, I'm a little ignorant in this area, so I wonder if PSA would do a similar treatment. And
Yeah,
maybe some of the folks are chiming in saying.
That's what we're talking about, Jeff Black, with that Soto Super, and that's the one that Phil says also was trimmed, right? So it was decertified. Yeah, I don't know. It definitely brings up the conversation about autographs increasing the value of certain cards while decreasing the value of others, and again, personal responsibility. But I don't know. And any final thoughts on that that Ohtani? If you haven't watched the video, please check it out on our Spitballin' channel, and you can hear Teapot's rage coming through the screen. So what I wanted to get to while we have you, Phil, here, is we touched on a little bit earlier, but the upcoming Bowman Draft release, which I believe, is that still a December 4th? Is that still early December, or has it been pushed?
Yeah, something like that. Is it the 4th? It might be like I don't know. It's like the first half of December.
Yeah, and as long as they keep it that way and not get pushed. How is that looking as far as what you're hearing? Now, can people, with your access to DealerNet, can people deal in those products that aren't out yet?
No, usually you can't do that till release day or release day -1. People need to have the product in hand, which is probably a good practice for the platform.
Probably.
Yeah. So Bowman Draft right now, you could have found it on eBay for like $570. There's only so many sellers. There's been some cases that have sold from merchandise liquidators. I've worked with them a little bit. You're not going to get the product if you buy from them like on release day. You might get it like a week or 2 weeks later, and it might be banged up because they probably won't put it in an outer shell box. But like, I consider these real comps, right? And the cases have gone for over 4,000. So
what?
I
how many
don't see
case?
8 boxes per case. So this is the regular jumbo, or the hobby is what Topps is calling it now. I think it's tinfoil hat maybe, but I think them changing the names, Super Jumbo is now Jumbo, Jumbo is now Hobby. That means they're going to cut the number of autographs next year. Instead of 3 and 5, we'll probably get 1 and 3.
And you think they're going to, for Bowman Draft, which is historically now, at least for the last several years, it's been 3 and 5. You think they'll drop it down?
Well, they've cut Topps Chrome. They've cut the number of packs and cards in Update Series 1, Series 2. I mean, they haven't touched Bowman yet, but why not try it now? I think the future of high-end might be actually Dynasty. We've been talking about this in an episode that hasn't yet been posted. Maybe they're realizing, like, what the hell? Like, we can't sell Bowman Chrome for more than $270. Like, when's it going to hit 300? There's 2 guaranteed on-card autos. This is supposed to be like a really great product. Why are we selling this for like a third of what Prism Basketball Hobby goes for, which is a terrible product? You know, so they might as well cut what's in it. And what they learned was with Topps Chrome from 2022 to 2023, they cut one of the autographs, literally 50% cut in autographs, and the box prices went up versus down. And that surprised them, because I know the cost to distributors was lower, because they were thinking, well, it's cheaper to make, so let's charge less for the product. Big mistake. No, this is not a $120 product. This is more like a $200 product, especially with the MVP buyback thing. So anyways, went on a tangent there. But with Bowman Draft this year, it's what I would consider one of the most sought after releases of the year. Top 3. Series 1 is probably first in most anticipated release. And a lot of that has to do with timing. Mm-hmm. And A lot of that has to do with a little drought you get in products that aren't released in January, but now we are getting some products released in January from the previous year. And then Topps Chrome is obviously an anticipated release. This year, Topps Chrome update completely destroyed the Topps Chrome hype, probably, if you're to look back at like the national time period where Topps Chrome came out. But Bowman Draft is right up there too. And Bowman Draft is a product that garners a lot of buzz and attention for at least 2, 3, 4 weeks. When Bowman Draft comes out, it doesn't matter when Bowman's Best comes out. Bowman Draft is still going to be the hottest product on release week +1, release week +2. It's going to be the hottest product for breakers. It's really popular. There's a decent floor. That's where you get all your firsts. This is a product that has a lot of, they're going to be a little bit older than the international guys in Bowman Chrome, but they're going to have a much higher floor, the prep hitters, the college hitters, etc. And they've had a pretty decent track record of panning out, the Bowman Draft players, whether they were in college or not. Bowman Draft is also, in my opinion, one of the last products, and that probably ends this year, for being a decent 1-year hold, regardless of checklist and who's in it. It just, so much of the stuff gets opened because it is so popular from a breaking standpoint, singles collector standpoint, people buying the box for themselves, opening a personal or a personal case. It's just really popular where so much gets opened right away, which causes prices to go up. It doesn't really matter. In my opinion, Jack Caglione and Travis Pizzana, did I even get his first name right? It doesn't really matter what they do next year because there'll be so much of the product open. There might be some other guys that bubble up. There'll be enough potential left. Yes, this product could flame out like 2021 draft did. This product will go down and be a bad investment in time, most likely. But a 1-year hold for this product is usually pretty safe. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So Scott had asked me on the channel, what's a better buy, this or Topps Chrome Update? It's complicated. If you're to hold it, it depends on the time period. If it's 1 year, well, now Topps Chrome Update might win, but I would have said Bowman Draft. If it's 2, 3 years, Topps Chrome Update would have a better chance because you've got the prospects that flame out, where some of the more proven, even though they're just rookies at this point, end up not flaming out as quickly. And then you've got the debut patches, of course. But yeah, Bowman Draft is one of the last like good products that Fanatics hasn't ruined from jacking up print runs. They've hurt it by increasing prices roughly 15% each of the last 2 years. But I would argue in 2022, when this product was $400, I would say that it was a little bit underpriced. I think 450, 500. I think that's it. That's kind of what it's worth, in my opinion, compared to other products. It's like the best baseball release, and it's still half the cost of, what do you get, one autograph in a Panini Prism hobby box, either like basketball or football?
That's the thing, and I know that's what Ty was telling us, just the money that goes pouring into those basketball and football products. And with those people coming over to Topps, he thinks it's just going to increase the prices of the baseball products to better match the basketball products. For me individually, it's a little frustrating because I love Bowman Draft, and I until last year I've opened a box every year, but now it just, for me, that price point is pretty high to do that. Do you think if they do what you're speculating and drop it from 5 and 3 to 3 and 1 autographs, that they'll drop the price that much, or are they still going to keep it up in this hemisphere?
They could drop it a little. The issue with dropping autos in Bowman is most of the value comes from the autos. With Topps Chrome, the autos usually sucked.
Right.
Both from a ceiling and a floor perspective. Don't compare to Bowman. You've got a massive checklist of 100 to 150 names, nowadays closer to 150. And it's a Topps Chrome rookie auto. It's not a Bowman Chrome auto. So with Bowman Draft, you've got about 100 names on the checklist. And we're talking the players' holy grail cards. I know we use the word grail a lot, but some of their best cards. More of the value. You can get some good refractors and stuff from Bowman Draft and some non-auto color and stuff like that. But it would hurt. Taking away autos from their product would really piss people off. With Topps Chrome, It was more of like a monkey paw or like a slap, a little slap to the face. And then people got over it after a few months, and nobody talks about it anymore. With Bowman, people will be talking about it. Would it be a mistake? Yeah, I think so. I don't think. Here's what they'd have to do. They'd have to have some sort of offsetting thing. MVP buyback. Well, they started that in 2022, right?
Yeah.
They would need to do something similar with Bowman products to offset the taking away the autos. That would be cool.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do, and especially as they transition fully into the NFL and NBA licenses. Somebody had a question. I think John. Are you talking about the Wemby that the guy wasn't he at the PSA headquarters, Phil, when he gave a shout out to Kurt's Card Care? I think he got it graded. I don't know if it was a red Wemby, but it was some kind of Wemby, some kind of big card, and he gave a shout out to Kurt's Card Care. I thought that did get decertified.
Yeah, I don't know. We need to
I don't remember.
Yeah.
It created quite an uproar, and I know they quickly took that video down of him giving Kurt's Card Care a shout out. And then I think he said that he wasn't specifically shouting them out for helping him clean this card, just for his great products.
Oh,
so
well, there's that too, which doesn't help. You bring up Kurt. It's funny how silly people can be. It's like the equivalent in baseball cards of Darwin's survival of the fittest. You got people that just you got everything set up for you, but you just made a bad mental decision, mental error.
And and some of that has to do with social media, right? They just can't help themselves bragging about what they were able to do and how successful they were. And I think that happened recently with, maybe it was a Jackie. It was some vintage card that got a huge bump up, like maybe from a 2 or 2.5 to a 4.5 or something via I think it was the soaking method.
Yeah, it's a social media clout.
And he would have been fine, but he just bragged about it.
He's had to tell one person, but he forgot that Instagram wasn't one person; it was thousands.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's like the Menendez brothers. They couldn't just keep it to themselves. They might get out anyways.
I think they're getting out. Yeah, yeah.
But if they had kept it to them, if they just acted less like humans and more like animals with no conscience, then they would have got away with it.
And then maybe we wouldn't be looking for them on Mark Jackson cards. And did you see that they were recently discovered on a Michael Jordan card as well?
Yeah. As soon as I found out about that, it could be a good buy. If I find out about something like that, it's too late.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm already being influenced. I'm not leading anything.
Yeah. Jay Marble says, will there be a Tops Now card for that? Speaking of that, did you see that, and I think I sent this on our chat, that there is a Tops Now Livy Dunn and Paul Skeens dual auto from his Rookie of the Year announcement. What do you think about that card? Are you gonna spend the money to chase that dual auto?
It's definitely interesting. We talked about this a little bit. How much pressure is there for Skeens to stay with Livy Dunn? And could that pressure, first of all, if he left Livy Dunn, is that going to affect his hobby in a negative way? If so, how much? The second part of that is he going to be so busy trying to maintain that relationship? And this is us, not, looking at the outside in, being like, well, he's like a decent looking guy, above average, tall, rich now, and really good at his career. Could he really retain a girl like that? And what's it going to cost to make sure that he does that? Is that going to, because we've seen it with some players, somebody from Houston, I was at a card shop, Houston connection something, and the guy was talking about Carlos Correa and how he was worried about him because he had his first girlfriend he was living with, and that coincided with his fall off from hobby relevance. And he's had some good years. I think this year he was pretty good. That was in 2017, 18, 19, something like that.
Phil, did you see the meme that was going around this week, in fact, that showed that Matt Kemp was like in the top 2% of defensive outfielders in both 2009 and 2011. I think he won a Gold Glove either in one or both years. And in 2010, he was like dead last in ultra zone rating. And they said that was the year he was dating Rihanna.
Oh
So
my
apparently that took a toll on his defense that particular year.
I remember Matt Kemp highlights when people used to still watch SportsCenter, or when SportsCenter used to still feature baseball.
Yeah.
And he'd be jogging in the outfield after a ball. And we knew him as a 30-30 guy. He had 40 steals once.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, what are you doing? Like you said, like athletic guy, like pretty fast.
That was 2010. He had no legs then, Phil. He
Yeah.
had no legs.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Case SFO Sox fan says Jeter survived Mariah. He'll be fine if he continues to win. The difference with Jeter, when he was winning those championships, there wasn't a lot of social media, and not everything was out there where it is now.
Yeah. For the record, I am bullish on Paul Skeens for the next 1 to 3 years.
I thought you were going to say next 1 to 3 months before he picks up the ball again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's incredible, and I think, I mean, I've already been looking at some early fantasy lists, and he's in the top 3 pitchers off the board. Some of them are picking him 1, even though we know he's probably not going to get a full workload. But what he can do in the innings that he gets, he's probably going to be dominant.
Yeah. Sub-2 ERA as a rookie, going 6 to 7 innings plus. He's got a good repertoire. He's got a good body. And he did pitch like 170 plus, I think, between all levels, or 160 plus between all levels last year.
He did get a lot more innings. I remember you pointed that out than I had originally thought.
Yeah, Pirates not going to get a lot of wins, so he's getting that discount. But he goes pretty deep in games, so he can still get to 12 if he's lucky, maybe.
Or if you're in a quality start league, he should be able to put six together.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I like him is I know he'll probably get injured. I don't think it's safe to assume that he'll have a Tommy John surgery within the next 12 to 18 months or 12 to 24 months. I just don't know if the probability of that is over 50%, but it seems like the hobby, and this is the loud minority, or the loud majority, actually. It doesn't matter, because the minority, they're the ones that are buying his cards, and there's enough of those buyers that are making his cards expensive, apparently. But a lot of people in the hobby are not in on him, and I think that could change if he stays healthy for a little bit, because it's weird. It's all about recency bias.
For sure. And recency bias for me, Phil, is buying Strider cards last offseason, because I was convinced that he had the build, the body to withstand injury, or at least hold it off for a little bit longer. And that one weekend, was not the case. And if that hadn't happened for me, that's my recency bias, that I'd probably be much more interested in Skeens cards now.
Yeah. So Ryan's talking about how it doesn't look like he puts in max effort. Pedro Martinez, I was talking to a friend yesterday about all the guys that avoided Tommy John. Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, I don't think had it. Pedro, I don't think had it. And if he did, he didn't have arm issues till he was 35 plus. Randy Johnson never had it. He's a bigger guy. John Smoltz had one in his 30s. A lot of guys didn't have them. And Pedro, he blames it for guys that spend too much time in the weight room that have baby ligaments. They start to add spin and velocity before their arms are ready to handle it, is kind of where he's going. So
spin rate is huge, right?
Yeah. So Skeens, even with his body, based on Pedro's philosophy, could be still a good candidate for a TJ. Now I'm looking at guys that haven't had one yet as a positive thing. So with Strider, he already had one. We're like, oh, but you're really good after your first one. No, you're probably just more likely to have another at that point. And you're more likely to not have a career that lasts as long, because when you have one, the next one you have is your second. And then the one after that's your third, and then you're pretty much finished as a pitcher.
Yeah, because it's really like an 18-month thing, right? So that kind of takes out 2 seasons. Those add up.
Yeah. Skeens, I like guys that can do one thing in the sport better than everybody else can, and I think he can reach that level. We talked about this a little bit with like Jordan. He's we thought the best hitter in baseball when he was healthy. Now it's Aaron Judge, and I think Skeens can be that. He can separate himself, and I think the 80% or 85% of the hobby that are turned off on all young pitchers, and rightly so. There's a lot of risk there. I think some of those people claw back and try to get a piece of Skeens. By that point, I'll be a holder. But who knows? High risk. This isn't personalized financial advice. This could go wrong really quickly with Skeens. Bobby Miller was the guy I was high on. And I was talking to a friend about this. If you're a pitcher that has a bad second year, you're going to be forgotten about, basically. if you just fall off dramatically like Bobby Miller did, nobody's buying his cars anymore.
And it's going to take a
Really
long time to get back. We've talked about even superstars needing to see it 2 years in a row, and guys like Acuna coming back from injury. I mean, if you're a pitcher who drops off like Bobby Miller, how successful is he going to have to be for how long before he becomes hobby relevant again?
Yeah, some good points here. So Jeremy talking about Strider won't be ready for opening day. So he had the braces surgery, not the Tommy John, but there's not much data about the timetable for braces. So Tommy John's a 17 to 18 month timetable to return. Would braces really be like 11 to 12 months? I never thought so. I was talking to Chris about it. There's just no news on it until recently. And they said that Acuna could be ready in the first few months. This implies that Strider is not going to be ready till the second half. If you read between the lines there, because they gave no timetable at all for Strider. I wouldn't be shocked if he missed the entire year. And the whole braces procedure is closer to 17, 18 months.
Which then begs the question, should he have just had the full procedure? Because they were kind of couching it as, well, it's not as severe. He doesn't need the full Tommy John. He can do the brace. And those are the figures I heard being thrown around at the beginning, 11, 12 months. And Strider has already had Tommy John. So I don't know how, for example, how the brace affects a second Tommy John. I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns there. And you're right. They're not going to hurry him back. So if that means, man, I hope it's not the whole season. I was kind of thinking All-Star break, but could be.
Yeah. Strider was a miscalculation with me. I'm like, Strider is the only interesting pitcher under the age of 30 right now. He's going to be able to separate himself.
Yep.
But
Same.
One TJ already. He had a home run issue the year before, and the first game when he got injured, or second game where he got injured, he gets hit hard, fly ball pitcher, ERA killer right there. Like that's not good. And I know ERA is not.
Scherzer was able to deal with that.
True. But Skeens is past that already.
Yeah,
Skeens
you're right.
is so much more developed, and he's got the biggest thing is the full arsenal. Strider was working on his changeup and curve in the spring, and he had some success throwing it 5% of the time in that first game or so. Still not a polished pitcher, still more of a thrower. And he didn't have the baseball body. I know he had the legs, but the size, the frame, that matters too. It's not just the butt and the legs. And not that he's short, but at best he's 6'1", where a lot of the pitchers, you want the 6'5" frames. You want 6'5", 225 plus. That's what you want.
Yeah. Famous last words. It's not about the butt and legs. Jeremy, Grayson did get hurt, but I believe he came back before the season ended. Phil, do you remember? I think he was back in the rotation before the season ended.
Yeah, that was a weird season with Grayson Rodriguez. He never really got going. Right?
No, he was up and down. He'd have a couple great starts and then terrible ones. And I still think he's got great potential. I still like him, but he's a pitcher. Yeah. Speaking in tongues, we did have to work with Scott Boras, who's Philmington's agent. So it was a little tough to get him here, but we were glad to land him. Mookie says Strider has no baby ligaments in his keister. That didn't prevent the bracing, though. Okay. Quickly, let's get to this, Phil. What's your Hall of Fame prediction or votes for this year? Anybody besides Ichiro sailing in?
So there's this is all over the board, right? After Ichiro, it could go in a lot of different directions, it seems.
Yes.
Some people are saying Josh Donaldson could have a chance.
Are you kidding? Brewer grade, Josh Donaldson.
One person of like 30 where I've seen their feedback here, maybe, but yeah, I don't know.
I didn't even know he's not eligible yet, is he? Is he on the ballot?
I don't know.
I feel like he's played more recently than that, or attempted to play.
Yeah. Why did I say Josh Donaldson then?
Andrew Jones.
In 5 years? No way. He's a couple years.
I want to see if I can find a readable ballot.
Andrew Jones is the question every year. People either say he's overrated or underrated. Oh, John Donaldson. Oh, geez. Thanks, battery. That makes more sense. Josh Donaldson probably still in the league.
I don't know if anybody's signing him, but all right, let me get this.
Jeez. Glad nobody's gonna watch this.
Yeah, everybody's asleep by now. Isn't it midnight over there where you are?
Close to it, yeah. Ben Zobrist. CC Ben Zobrist. It's funny how there's an argument for Ben Zobrist, but there's still a pocket of the hobby that doesn't think that Mike Trout is Hall of Fame worthy. So some of those people respond to our comments. He hasn't done enough yet. But
yeah, he's not in for sure. He's got to prove that he can stay healthy. All right, let me see. Let me go with Reddit. See if I
King Felix. Man, that guy could have been so good. Beltran, if it wasn't for the controversy.
What about Dave Parker with the Era Committee? Yeah. Okay. So this is the official ballot.
Mark Burley, because I'm a sad Sox fan.
Yeah. Any Ian Kinsler love? Yeah.
Ian Kinsler. Oh my goodness. This is rough. So Chase Utley, I could see the argument for that. Like pretty good peak. Should have played for longer at a high level, but whatever.
Yes, exactly.
This is where you start to get some of the hometown love, a little bit of bias. That's going to help people like Utley that were. I mean, he wasn't a lifelong Philly, but pretty close in most people's eyes. Adam Jones.
Yeah,
he's like a Chase Utley light.
Tulo,
maybe if his peak was like 3 times as long as what it was. He was really good.
Even twice as long. Even if he had it, he was really good for those. Yeah, maybe 4 years.
Cargo, no.
Again,
he was a very good player, just not a great player.
And on the opposite side, you got Omar Vizquel, who played for 100 years, but was really only excelled on defense.
Yeah. Some people are saying K-Rod, and we don't want to bring up the closer debate here.
Yeah, because Wagner's probably going to get in, isn't he?
So if he gets in, then that's precedent for K-Rod to get in.
Yeah, they'll probably both get
Josh Donaldson's probably better. All the guys on this list. Andy Pettit.
Bobby Abreu, I bet if he played now, he'd have a lot more respect than he got, because he was kind of an OBP machine before that was really.
Yeah, a reverse Mark Burley, where Burley would get no respect if he played today.
Except he just would keep throwing. He threw a lot of 8-inning games.
There should be a different Hall of Fame for these guys, like Pedroia. Chase Utley's better than Pedroia was, in my opinion, but Pedroia was great for about 6-7 years.
And there's still a lot of people who hate Manny Machado for ruining his.
Yeah, his knee got destroyed from that. That's not an overreaction. I mean, kind of a weird injury to make it so he had like 3 or 4 knee surgeries afterwards. Kind of a weird way. Like, you can't blame him too much for that, but it did I think start it or contribute.
Yeah, Chris is I believe Chris is avoiding hearing about this because he doesn't want to hear about Wagner. CC, as a Brewer fan, I would vote for CC because he really was amazing in his 2 months as a Brewer. And in retrospect, seeing what he was able to do, there's not many pitchers besides the big 4 or 5 that are going to retire soon. Verlander, Scherzer. he's kind of the last of that breed. The big workhorse, lot of innings.
Yeah.
Hall of really good. Yeah, a lot of guys on here agree with that.
I could see one of Abreu or Andrew Jones getting in. The rest of these guys, they were like 5-year all-stars. A lot of them, like Hanley, David Wright. They could have been so great. They were really expensive in the hobby at one point and then collapsed.
Another good lesson, another good hobby lesson. I think Fernando Rodney might get in just for being on the most teams, didn't he? Wasn't he on like 13 or 14 teams? It's pretty incredible what he managed.
Man, just a accumulator type guy, volume guy.
No, ATL Jeff Black. I don't think CC is a first ballot guy, but I think he probably will get in, especially as time goes on and we see no pitchers getting near those numbers again. I think he gets in.
I mean, this is kind of why my Barry Bonds thesis of owning his cards and being a good buy have nothing to do with any sort of Hall of Fame prospects, because you can't strip away how great of a player he was. Same thing could be said for Pete Rose. And and then there's the guys that get in that make him into more of a scapegoat, talking about Bonds specifically here, that could have tainted the game like he did, but just didn't show up on the Mitchell report or whatever. I don't know, not to name names, but Adrian Beltre. There's others. There'll be more that get into that'll make the Hall of Fame seem a bit more arbitrary, I would say, by folks. That'll be the perception. Well, why do these guys, why do the best steroid players get shafted and all of these other, like some of the other ones got in that were also in that era that were suspected?
Yeah, I think, all right, we're seeing, and Pettit, I believe he did test positive because he apologized. He had that whole apology tour, right? Where he apologized for using it. And John says, yeah, Bonds never officially tested positive, correct?
Yeah, I guess.
Within the unleaked,
the
unleaked reports, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
I mean, his head grew 3 sizes.
Yeah. He definitely cheated. And he cheated more than most people.
Yeah.
Even if you believe that Pujols cheated, Pujols might have only cheated for fewer years. And when he cheated, it was probably HGH and not steroids, which the guys were doing earlier. And then they all switched when steroids got banned. At that point, Bonds already had a number of amazing seasons under his belt, as did McGuire and others who got bigger. Tejada, Pudge, Bagwell. Whoops, are some of these guys in the Hall of Fame? You know,
they might be. Yeah, arbitrary is a good way to describe it. Yeah, and Bonds definitely was at the forefront. You're right, Jay Marble.
Yeah, he cheated the best,
and yeah, he was the best cheater. He's the best player and then the best cheater. And John, you're right. And the Astros, there's players on that team like Altuve, like Beltran, that are gonna bear the brunt of that for a lot of voters. Sports guy Corey's throwing out a hot take here. In my fantasy world, voter can vote for as many people as they want, but guys are only on the ballot for 2 years. Makes voters make decisions. Shouldn't take 10 years for people to decide.
It's a good point. Like, we already said no to Bobby Abreu and Andrew Jones how many times? When they get in, how rewarding will it actually feel? It feels obviously really rewarding still. And you're not a first ballot Hall of Famer candidate anyways when you have those careers, but so maybe it is a nice little surprise. But it's a little strange. Like, why are you all of a sudden eligible at year 8? What changed? Any new pieces of information? No.
Yeah, I think that might be changing a little bit with the changing landscape of the voters. For a while, it seemed like the voters took their job as a gatekeeper very seriously and decided, I'm not going to vote for them in certain X number of years, and then maybe I'll give them a vote. But yeah, it's a great point. That doesn't really change. Thanks, Mookie. I appreciate that. It's because Phil's here. Phil's always on the juice. We're gonna test positive no matter what.
Chris brings the positive energy in ways that few people can provide. But yeah, for sure.
I was hoping he would wake up in Rome or wherever he is and want to join the show, but I don't know what the time difference is over there.
Yeah.
Fred McGriff seems stoked to get in, and I think yes, he absolutely did, and he was one of those guys that fell prey to that numbers game, right? He fell just short of the 500 home runs, and he seems like a guy who didn't really get caught up in the steroid era, although there's no telling for sure.
So? But I don't know. I mean, with his frame, his arms got pretty big for a while, but who knows?
He was big when he came out. He was not Frank Thomas big, but he was a pretty big kid when he started.
Okay. I saw him as like what size suit do you think he wears? This is a better question for Chris. His shoulders weren't like super broad is where I was getting.
No, he was big early on, and I don't know. Yeah, there's no telling who was on it and who was not. But I do love McGriff, the fact that he became a fan favorite in several different cities, which is kind of rare. That's fun.
Yeah, seemed like a nice guy. As did Luis Gonzalez.
Yeah. He's one of those guys with the random 50 home run years like Brady Anderson, right?
He had a 56. And then he had that jam shot hit off Mariano.
Yes.
He was able to muscle it into the outfield. I wonder why.
That muscling it has never been a more appropriate way of doing it. Battery makes a good point. Yeah. There was a lot of players that were left in the wake of all the steroids guys clogging the ballot. Yeah, that's true. And there were people that were voting, and you were limited to how many people you could vote for, and they're voting for all the steroids guys repeatedly who never got in. Yeah, so there was a little bit of a backup there. Sports guy Corey gets back to Burt Blyleven. 14 years of not playing. 62% of voters changed their mind and decided all of a sudden he was a Hall of Famer. Yeah, his last year of eligibility. Yeah.
Pedroia, 51 WAR. Okay.
That's higher than I thought.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's higher than I thought. It's probably not high enough for the Hall of Fame threshold. A couple more good years to get him to mid 60s. Yeah, Luis Gonzalez. All those, or the majority of those guys in the 80s, looking at them from their rookie cards. I mean, look at Bonds. Yeah.
Yeah, with me, it was one of the first big changes I noticed was Miguel Tejada and Pudge, their chest size. And it was like from 98 to 99 or something, or 99 to 2000. I was like, I don't know much about working out. I'm just a teenager, but this just seems not right.
Yeah. I think that's fair to say. The jersey size for a lot of those guys went up like 6 numbers during those couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. Torrey Hunter, 50 WAR.
And how much of that is on defense? Because he really had a great defensive career. Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting close to a couple hours, so I want to wrap it up. Yeah, Brady Anderson. That was crazy. And I remember, I don't know how many people remember, but he was like a huge prospect when he was coming up, and then just didn't really fulfill his prospect status. And then all of a sudden that one year he hit 50. That was pretty remarkable.
Yeah, he was their leadoff hitter for a while, I think. He was their leadoff hitter for a while, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
And they had that Roberts guy, Brian Roberts, second baseman.
Yeah, I think Brian Roberts came a little later.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was there.
Eric. Yeah, McGuire, creatine, but then eventually, it might have been in Sports Illustrated. It was in some publication where he talks about how he takes creatine and androstenedione. Yeah. Which was later banned. He's talking about it. And I remember me and my dad were talking about, my dad started taking creatine because of it. And he's like, oh, I couldn't take it. I'm growing tits because he wasn't working out. That's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be working out. Yeah, and then remember how mad McGuire got when somebody was pointing it out in his locker, just on the shelf. They saw his protein and creatine and andro.
Yeah,
Mad that they were looking at it.
It's being transparent. Little did he know that he was destroying any chance of him having any positive legacy by being honest and being the first person that talked about what he was taking. And
yeah, that's unfortunate because he and Sosa did change the landscape of baseball in '98 for sure. Mookie just wants to verify that your dad did hit more bombs when he was on the creatine.
My dad actually is about 5'7", 5'8", immigrant from Sicily. So he did not grow up playing baseball, nor is he any good. We had this parent-child baseball game.
Yeah.
And he was so humiliated with himself afterwards. He was quiet in the car. I never really saw him like this. I was in the 8th grade at the time, I think. They were telling him that he was holding the bat wrong. And he literally swung like a 3-year-old girl would. It was sad. He had the backhand was below the front hand. He was swinging. He made
cross-handed swing. Oh,
made contact with the ball, went like 4 feet. So
you did, Phil. That's your responsibility. You should have been practicing with him, knowing that this game was coming up.
You're probably right. Yeah, bad awareness from my part.
Yeah. Well, you're only in 8th grade. All right. Well, Phil, thank you so much for joining us. If Chris doesn't get lost in the catacombs of Rome, I think he'll be back next week for more reports on the European baseball glutes going on. Anything final you want to say to our viewers, Phil?
Topps Chrome Update Sapphire going to $900 in 2 weeks.
9. Okay, so if there's
right now
public buy tomorrow, try to get in 45 seconds.
550, 600 eBay right now, but the public sale goes out tomorrow for $380 a box. So it's a lofty prediction, and I do own some, so I could be potentially biased.
All right, that's
had fun.
Since you own it, it's not considered the Blabbin. Forgot what we dubbed it. It's where we talk about something and then the price goes up and then we buy it, which Chris and I have been guilty of, so the opposite of a pump and dump. But anyway, all right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Really appreciate it. Give your parents a call, especially if they played baseball with you in 8th grade and weren't too happy on the way home. Remind them that you still love them. Check out Philmington's channel and check us out on Spitball and Cards, please. We got some other videos going up this week, including the one about Ohtani. So check that out. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Take care, everyone. Bye, guys.